Mazzara, who is this guy? He writes The Walking What? What is that, a TV show? I don't even have cable. Or even better, where the hell is Martin Scorsese? Is Spike Lee stuck in traffic? Now, I know a lot of the dads in the audience are now saying, I paid $250,000 for this. UPenn had Joe Biden. I told you we should have sent her there. And all the moms out there are saying, I hear that Conan O'Brien always does a good job. Was he busy? Well, moms and dads, please do not panic. The good news is that if you are not 100% satisfied with this speech, NYU has set up tables in the lobby to give you a full 4-year refund. To be honest, no one here is more confused than me to be speaking to you on this special occasion. So let's break down how I got here. I'm a TV writer and producer who now lives in Los Angeles. And a few months ago, NYU had a networking luncheon for some alumni. I was speaking with Fred Bush, the Director of Development and Alumni Relations, and I mentioned that I'd be interested in talking to some of the Tisch students. You know, flying in, spending a few hours explaining what I do, how to break into the business, maybe teaching a seminar. I was thinking 50 people tops. So imagine my surprise when a few days later I received an invitation from Dean Campbell inviting me to speak to you today. When I told my wife, she said, clearly there must be some mistake. So since this is the first and probably the last time I'll be writing my marriage, I feel like we should call her now. But please imagine my further confusion when I realized that this was not actually a commencement speech because this is not a graduation, it's a salute. Yes, we are here today to honor you for continuing Tisch's proud military service. Whatever you call it, let me say it's my honor to be here today and to congratulate you all on not graduating, on being saluted. The truth is, I didn't go to Tisch. I went to the College of Arts and Sciences, which was known back in the day as WSUC, the Washington Square University College, or as we affectionately called it, We Suck. I absolutely loved it. I loved my time at NYU. I loved going to Kohl's and rooting for our basketball team, the Violets. They wore red-ass purple. They intimidated all the other teams. Like you, I thought I was so tough, screaming out, "Go Violets!" Like you, I was totally psyched to learn that NYU had the balls to name our mascot, the Bobcat, after the Bob's Library computer catalog system. And like many of you, I lost my virginity here. I was room 1606, Brittany Hall. Brittany Hall was the dorm, not the girl, so if your name is Brittany, do not tweet me any lawsuits. I was originally a journalism major, then I switched to English and American Lit. I had always wanted to be a writer since I was a small boy. I loved stories, telling stories, listening to them. I knew I wanted to write, but I never actually wrote a word. I dreamed about it, but could never put pen to paper. It was too daunting. What did I have to say? I was paralyzed. And when my friends at Tisch talked about the great plays they were going to write, or they made student films that still impress me to this very day, I sat in silence, believing that one day I would pull my act together and be a writer. Instead, I busied myself with obsessively reading all the great authors. Under the mentorship of Professor John Maynard, I earned both my undergraduate and graduate degrees in English. I thought about perhaps becoming a professor, but Professor Maynard saw my heart wasn't in it, and he gently guided me to pursue my dreams. I hope all of you are fortunate enough to have mentors in your life, ones that get you, who understand how complex the creative mind really is, who may not be able to give you all the answers, but who can point you in the right direction. And I'd like to thank Professor Maynard for doing that for me. I made many friends at NYU, and I'm glad to say we are all still very close. Most important one, of course, is my wife, Sarah. We met in my room, which was sort of party central. And she came in looking for this guy that she was dating, true, some Tisch film student who smoked a lot and talked about foreign films. So I decided to steal her, and 25 years later, 20 of them married, we have 3 beautiful, amazing sons. So it was clearly the smartest decision I ever made. I wish you all a life partner, a soulmate, as great as Sarah. My wife has sacrificed way more for my career than I have. We had our first son when I landed a freelance writing assignment on a show called Nash Bridges. So we picked up everything and we moved from Brooklyn to LA with no support system at all. She wanted me to pursue my dream, and I could not have done so without her. It was an incredibly difficult and lonely time for her, but she persevered. She supported me tirelessly, listened to all my frustrations, shared my victories, and had her heart broken whenever I failed. After Nash Bridges, I was out of work for almost 2 years. I couldn't get arrested. We had 2 kids at that point, and we were living on credit cards. But not once did she ever say, maybe this isn't working, maybe you should give up. So I wish you all find someone who appreciates what your passion means to you, who supports you along the way no matter what, who pushes you to strive for great things but keeps you grounded. It was Sarah who initially said to me, well, if you want to be a writer, don't you have to write? And that is true. You know, passion and talent are not enough. You know, you not only have to work hard, you have to outwork everyone around you. Sarah is the one who finally pushed me to get past my fears, the internal nagging we all have. Am I good enough? Aren't I a fraud? So I pushed past those fears, and I began my journey as a writer at Boats, 2 levels down, sitting at a carol late at night, scribbling in a notebook, hoping it would make sense to someone besides me. While pursuing my master's degree, I worked at NYU Medical Center. I was a manager in the emergency room, taking care of supplies, budgets, schedules, everything needed for patient care. It turned out to be the perfect training ground for a television production because I can very easily tell when a script is DOA. It was during this time that I began to write scripts and send them out to Hollywood. After making a pain of myself for a few years, I finally got a call from an agent. He liked my writing but needed to see another sample. I wanted to get him one as fast as possible. Unfortunately, they had just opened up the first Krispy Kreme I had ever seen on 8th Street. So for 2 days, that's all I ate, and then that sugar high, because Adderall was not that big back then. I lived at Boats, and I wrote this spec Buffy the Vampire Slayer that ended up getting me the gig on Nash. That was 15 years ago, and I'm here to tell you, those anxieties will never go away. Did they like it? Did they really like it? Why did that person get the part instead of me? Why is that person, who's clearly so less talented, more successful? When am I getting my Oscar? Creative people believe that these insecurities are obstacles that keep us from being artists. We believe that if we could just succeed enough, that if we just had enough experience, those anxieties will disappear, and then we will finally be real artists. But that's not true. They're not going anywhere. Worse, they'll join forces with the opinions of other artists, fans, and critics. It will be painful, especially when you are young and raw. People will criticize your work, often carelessly. They don't give a damn about all the late nights and countless rehearsals, the crumpled pages overflowing the wastebasket. They may not give you your standing ovation. They may walk out or boo, or worse, not even show up at all. One day you will hear crickets instead of applause. You will bomb, and the pain of that event will validate your own internal fears, and it will feel like you were lost at sea in a storm. For example, I was the showrunner of The Walking Dead these past 2 seasons before I left to pursue creating my own shows. It was enormously successful. In fact, it was the first time that a cable show beat network shows in ratings. It has changed the landscape of TV and will probably affect how TV is made for years to come. So let me share with you some of the feedback I've received from fans via Twitter. First, the good. Okay, congrats, you will be missed. Your vision got the show to where it is. I will be first in line for your next project. Thank you for the greatest series on earth. You're awesome. Some of the finest TV I have ever watched. You ripped my still beating heart out and I loved it. Thank you. Now that's incredibly gratifying. I'm so appreciative that I was able to write and produce something that affected people on an emotional level. However, not everyone agrees. Here are some others. I will never forgive you. I will hate you the rest of my life. Well, I guess we know why Glen Mazzara isn't there anymore. F you and goodbye. Showrunner? How about show ruiner? I don't know what's worse, Glen's writing skills or my cancer. Worst showrunner ever. I'd love to meet Glen Mazzara just so I could yell at him for an hour about how much he sucks. It's like Mazzara knew what we wanted, then deliberately did the opposite. Thanks for ruining everyone's days and their dreams. Prepare to die. My favorite, hi again, F you, I'm going to shit to blows. And that guy's complaining about my writing? Everyone says don't listen to the critics, don't read the reviews. Good luck. That's easier said than done. Especially in a world that has instantaneous and anonymous feedback via social media. But this isn't a new phenomenon. People have always talked smack. People now say Shakespeare didn't even write his plays. They credit Marlowe or Bacon or even the Earl of Oxford, a guy who has no surviving plays. Now, I'm not saying I'm Shakespeare. I'm certainly not saying that. I'm just pointing out that even after writing 37 plays that are still performed and studied today, including the 4 greatest tragedies in Western civilization, it isn't enough. So let me ask you questions that some of you may be thinking. What am I getting myself into? Am I crazy? Why would I do this to myself? Should I have gone to law school? If all of this sounds daunting, please do not panic. Things are not that bad. If your career does not work out, I'm sure Mom and Dad would love to have you back home on the couch playing Xbox for the next 10 years. I believe that many of you are becoming artists because you want to be loved. You want other people to experience your work, to react emotionally, and to say, I feel the same way you do. I hear you. I see you. I love you. And you will sacrifice greatly for that. You will turn yourselves inside out. You will mind the darkest parts of your soul. You will spend many years honing your craft, often in solitude, experimenting, failing. Failure is the only road to true success. All the while wrestling your own demons, telling you it's useless, that you aren't good enough. This is definitely true for actors and writers, who draw from very much the same place. Actors and writers certainly want to be loved. However, writers are cynical enough to know that they never will be. It's true. That's why you see actors cry when they win awards. You like me. You really like me. You never see any writers crying at award shows, do you? So how do we deal with this artist dilemma? Finding our deepest emotional lives, serving it up to the world on a silver platter, and having them say, meh. How do we reconcile things when working alongside other creatives who have their own visions and agendas? Well, you can either let these storms blow you off course and leave you shipwrecked, or you can batten down the hatches and push right on through, clinging to your own artistic vision. Those internal and external critics are just hot air. They don't mean anything. When you are actually lost in the moment of creation, they drop away. They're only winds, so just let them blow. You can have the #1 show on TV and people will still tell you to go screw yourself. You can be Shakespeare and 400 years after you're dead, they'll still call you a fraud. Don't worry about anyone else. Don't worry what anyone thinks. You will be okay. Clear your mind and do what you were born to do, what you went to school here for, what you love. You are all now part of the creative community. Be supportive of each other. Be mindful of the hardships your fellow artists are going through. You're trying to build something new, not tear each other down. For some, the world is a zero-sum game that can only be won at someone else's expense. That's true in fields like business or law. But you didn't go to Stern or the law school. You have chosen to answer what I consider a higher calling. When I attended NYU, like many other students, I minored in CARS, the classes of the Director of Religious Studies, Professor James P. Cars. He was an amazing teacher who opened our minds in a way like no others. He taught at NYU for 30 years, and I read his book, Finite and Infinite Games, almost every year. Professor Kors writes, there are at least two kinds of games. One could be called finite, the other infinite. A finite game is played for the purposes of winning. An infinite game for the purpose of continuing the play. Finite games are played within boundaries. Infinite games have horizons. Finite players have titles. Infinite players have their names. What's important is not what they've done, but what they will do, their open future. Art is an infinite game. It cannot be won. Awards may be shiny, but they don't help you write your next song or play or design your set or direct your film. Art is about creation, about moving forward, about what's next. It's about imagination. It's about opportunity. Scholars ask what, artists ask what if. So focus on that, the joy of the game. Do not resent the success of others. Do not get sucked into society's snarkiness and mean-spirited judgments. Do not callously or cruelly dismiss someone else's writing, film, or performance. Very simply, don't be a jerk. By all means, demand great work, especially of yourselves, but don't talk trash about each other. Be respectful, patient, humble, and above all, generous, especially with your most precious commodity, your time. The life of an artist is hard enough. We need to support each other, to offer constructive criticism, to listen to each other. Have a strong point of view, but don't shout over each other and scream, it's my way or the highway. Leave that to cable news. At Tisch, you have been and will continue to be part of something very special. I'm standing here before you, and I can tell you there's a lot of energy right now. It's like standing before a great wave that's going to crash over the world for decades to come. Your works of art are all ahead of us. That's thrilling. I know you want to charge out there and make your mark on the world, and trust me, you will. The world has changed so much since I went to NYU. There was no internet. We used coins to operate payphones, and if you didn't have any, you had to click for an operator who was most likely in the same country. I could go on and on about the old days, but I won't. You'll be doing the same soon enough. I guarantee you one day you'll be telling your kids, back in my day, we actually had to attend class. We couldn't just download everything into a chip in our brains. And we had to use little glass boxes as phones. We actually had to text with our thumbs. The world is changing faster than any of us can imagine. It's hard to keep up. What's amazing about this graduating class, about the people in this room, is that you're going to make sense of it for the rest of us. You're going to interpret it. You're going to tell us what to think. You're going to make sense of a nonsensical world. And that's a huge responsibility. So do us all a favor. Use your power to change the world for the better. Don't be concerned with success or money. Those things work themselves out, and they end up not meaning that much anyway. I want you to be cutting edge and tough and create fearless, beautiful, honest works that challenge us, that force us to see something new, that strike the deepest emotional chords, and that stand the test of time, that retain their power for ages. But it's crucial that you consider the messages and the images that you put out there. Be mindful of how you portray women. Do not reduce them to sexist images. Of body parts. That dehumanizes us all. Be mindful of how you depict people of ethnic groups and sexual orientations that are different than your own. Avoid stereotypes and cliches. They make jokes out of all of us. Do not look down on your characters or your audience. They're smarter than you. Avoid gratuitous depictions of sex and violence that ignore their true impact on humanity. They may sell tickets, but you can do better. And be mindful of who you work with, who you collaborate with, who you employ. The more diverse the creative team around you, the more your vision of the world will reflect that of a realistic, dynamic, and changing society. The bar must be raised. You must leap over it and then raise it again for the next generation. were accepted to Tisch because you're gifted, and you have many gifts in front of you now. Your youth, your passion, your innocence, your many artistic talents. The world needs those gifts. You've been sheltered long enough. Now it's time to get out there and show us what you've got. We need the songs that only you can sing, the plays that only you can write, the films that only you can make, the performances that only you can give, the stories that only you can tell. I congratulate you all on the hard work you've done and all the hard work you're going to do. I wish you all the best. I wish you many friends and true love and a great family, and that you get to see the world, and that your heart gets broken, and that one day you'll end up happy old men and women with vast bodies of work to your name. I hope that the joy you feel right now, the love in this room, is the same joy and love that you put into your works, and that whatever production you're involved with, whether it's a stage play, a screenplay, or a teleplay, you realize they are called plays for a reason. Your possibilities are infinite, so let the games begin. Thank you, everyone.